Hi everybody, this is Chris Green, creator of Boethos and the CR Green website. Boethos is your UI builder for ExtendScript for applications like After Effects and the other Adobe apps. The latest update is explained at the top always. It's now late 2017, and here's the latest update in bold at the top. It just basically tells you not to worry that things still work. I'm going to explain why things are slightly different and what to do to make them work. It's good to study this page. It has the features, and it has a few caveats and a few not so intuitive things that are best explained in this little section. And we are going to want to go to the code, copy the code, and then use it within the CrossUI RAD builder. So if I go to the code now, here it is. I let it all load up, select it all, copy it, and then go back to this page so I can navigate to the CrossUI RAD page. It brings it up, and I can either choose classic layout or blank project. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to take blank project, and it's actually building a project file, so I'm going to say OK. You have to save it before you debug it, again, when you're finished with your work. So I'll get to that. Switch to the code view. I still have my code in the clipboard, so I click within here, select everything, get rid of it, and paste in my code, which is substantially larger. Then I click back to the design view, and now I have my reference card on the left and this little widget that I need to get rid of by hitting the delete object button. So now my script window is here, and I can call it whatever I want. I'm going to click here and call it simple UI window example. And I'm now going to start building my UI. Everything else now works the way you'd expect. I can grab a button from simple elements. I can grab it from form elements. I don't think that really matters, but I'm going to grab a simple element button. Here it is. I'm going to drag it over. I can resize it, or I can use keys to move it or resize it. With modifier keys, I can click within it, rename it. I can use, let's find a checkbox. I put a checkbox up here. It's going to act like a checkbox. I'm going to call it, check choice. Here's a slightly more complicated thing. I'm going to come down to containers and grab a block. And the block is going to give me an untitled parent that I'm going to use to contain a radio group, a group of radio buttons. Now, the trick with Boethos is that you cannot use radio buttons. You have to use check buttons and turn them into radio buttons. They're much easier to deal with that way. So I'm going to use a checkbox again. I'm going to drag it into the parent, which is the block. I'm going to call it option 1. And then to make it a radio button, I come over to the properties, go down to the bottom, find theme, and type in radio, or radio button is one word. And now both of us will know to make that a radio button. And now would be a good time to clone it, because I don't want to have to drag it over again. So I clone it. I change the title of this clone to option 2, and it already has the radio theme working for it. I can use input I want to use a no label option for any widgets that I see that have a no label. I want to use the no label versions. That is the important rule. If I do come down to text area and I use, for example, text area widget, it doesn't, whoops, I put it in the wrong place. Let me get rid of that. If I use this text area widget, it gives it a, here, let me just give you a little more space here. It gives it a title, and I don't want a title, a label. So when I come down to the, come over to the properties of this particular text area and get rid of the label by making the label size 0. Now I've killed the label, which is what we want. So basically never use labeled versions of any widgets. Except, for example, like a group which has a title as part of its look. It'll turn into a panel just as the group, just as the block will turn into a panel, but a group will be converted into a panel with a title as opposed to a block which has no title. I hope that makes sense. A little weird, but it works. All right. So here we have our interface. Nothing to write home about, but almost done. This is a radio group, so I need to make one of these values true, so it behaves accordingly. Change the names of the aliases if we want. So I can call this check1 and call this radio 1 and this radio 2, and all these aliases will carry over into the ExtendScript code, but you can also use the default names, or aliases I should say. Alright, I'm ready to make this, so I'm going to save it first, and this is important. You actually have to save it first. I can delete this quick reference card or not, it doesn't really matter, but I think I'm ready to debug this, so I've saved it, and so now I click the debug button, and it builds this sort of proto-interface. And the proto-interface you can move around, which actually represents where it's going to be within the, for example, After Effects, within the After Effects interface. So if I have it way up here, it is going to be in the upper left-hand corner. After Effects uses palettes and dockable panels and dialogues. After Effects doesn't use windows, so you don't want to use windows. Generally, the palette and dockable panel are more popular, but a dialogue is modal, and if that doesn't mean anything to you, then, well, you should look it up. All right, let's just say this is all ready to go. I'm going to get my code by destroying the window. Okay, so now I've got my code. I select it, copy it, go to ExtendScript Toolkit, or whatever application you want to use it in, and I can test out the interface. Now, this looks pretty good. You can see that everything behaves the way it's supposed to. These are now magically turned into radio buttons. And this panel here, which was a block, if you recall, has a certain style to it. And one of the tricks you can do to change that style is you can enter in a theme using the style name that ExtendScript uses. So it could be black, or it could be etched, and there are a few others. I'm just going to use etched. Remember, you have to save this now before you debug it. So I'm waiting for it to save. There it goes. Now I'm going to debug it. It gives me the new version of the proto interface. I destroy it, I copy the code, go to ExtendScript toolkit, paste in the code, and now we'll see the etched panel here, the parent, which was the block, which is a little bit more elegant, at least in this ExtendScript toolkit. All right, that is how it works. I hope you enjoy using it. If you have any questions, let me know using the email link on crgreen.com. Happy scripting.